Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism back with another live video for you. Thank you very much for joining me. But before we get to our guest, let me first tell you where you can find not just me, but my guest as well on November 15th and 16th, 2018. So let's watch.
Are you ready? Because we're taking it to the next level. The world is waking up. Join us in Denver this November for the Flat Earth International Conference 2018. Tickets are now available at fe2018.com. FEIC USA Edition. Bigger, better, higher, and still as flat as ever.
So, yes, that is where we will both be, and that is coming very soon, about a month away, almost a month and a day. So make sure that if you're available, that is going to be in Denver, and you can join us there. That would be awesome. But my guest, first and foremost, you might know him as a member of the Globebusters. He's been with the Globebusters for at least a year, and I think has made the show much better. That's no doubt. And he's currently upside down in Argentina, or maybe he has his camera positioned to where he'll be right side up. He is Iro Landucci. Iro, are you right side up? Or are you upside down? How are you?
Yeah, but I have a special tool from NASA that correct the orientation of the camera. So for you,
excellent.
I'm straight up, but in real life, of course, I am upside down, man.
Right.
That's no doubt.
We have NASA to thank for that special bit of technology. And I love your shirt. Show off your shirt. That is
please. And I'm gonna give the thanks for the guy who sent me. Is a follower of my work in Spanish. It says anti-Illuminati and has the compass and the square with the forbidden sign. And here says against all. And I will add against all heliocentric complices. And it's a really provocative T-shirt. Here, you must remember, but the city where I live is one of the most Masonic cities in the world. It was created like Washington City. So, walking around in the street of my neighborhood with this T-shirt could be, a little bit dangerous, but
I'm trying to remember.
I bring my jacket, to cover a little bit.
Just in case.
In case, exactly.
Now I'm trying to remember.
In fact, it doesn't say against Masons. It just says anti-Illuminati. That will be my excuse if 10 guys step outside in front of me.
Well, awesome. Thank you very much. We just got a super chat. Appreciate that already early on. And just so people know who we're looking at, who we're talking to, that is Iro Landucci. Born in La Plata, Buenos Aires, Argentina. Underneath his job, he's listed as a VFX technical director for 20 years and a 2D, 3D motion graphics artist. As a researcher, he has down that he's been an NWO researcher for 13 years, Flat Earth researcher for 4 years, conspiracy radio show for 4 years, and basic Germanic medicine and neurolinguistic programming, symbolism, and ritualism. And in my opinion, one of the best NASA investigators out there. Why don't you tell people first and foremost, how did you get going? How did you stumble upon the NASA hoax faking space since 1958?
Well, I must be said that I was a really huge fan of NASA. Even that I didn't believe that they take us to the moon. You can understand how the mind work. It's a really strange way because I never believed that, and I always believed that NASA are lying us, but to the other side, I was a really huge fan. So it's like something that are not good. And let me just correct my camera.
There you go.
And like you said, and like you read before, I was in the conspiracy, conspiracy shows, science for years ago. I have my own radio show, and I was in my house, searching for something to share with my audience, and I come across with the article talking about the non-existence of satellites. Not existent are they like they tell us, but all the functionality that supposedly represent a satellite is made by a complete and huge arrangement of other equipment, like antennas, radar, balloons, blah blah, fiber optics, blah 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 blah.
Right.
And the end of the article proposed to find one picture of real satellite, from the ground, or even the real picture of the globe. And as a visual effect artist, I work doing that a few times, for History Channel, for commercials, and all the time that I made that kind of motion graphic pieces, all the time we focus at the concept art in fake images, just concept art.
Right.
Images. So in my mind start to start falling all the pieces together, and after that moment I never can go back to the globe.
And
that is what happened.
If people have any hard time understanding Iru, obviously English is not his first language, but I'm super impressed with the amount of English you know. I certainly don't know that much Spanish. I can say, que pasa, about it, a couple more things. I worked at a Chevy's Mexican restaurant for about 2 or 3 years, so that's the extent of my Spanish ability.
That is your expertise,
that is my
in the Spanish language.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I will be tonight if I can. If he says something and I need to help interpret it a little bit,
Please.
I will step in and kind of help out. But so you're basically saying that you had seen some questions about satellites and whether or not there was pictures of the globe. Now, you said that you had worked for History Channel and some other TV productions. Have you ever done you've done motion graphics of the Earth? But made,
yes.
But made from what? How do you put together a motion graphic of the Earth? What do you use?
Basically, you create a 3D model of a sphere, a perfect sphere, and you download it from NASA. Pictures, flat pictures based on Mercator maps, and you wrap around the sphere, and then you start working on, creating the atmosphere and creating the glow of the atmosphere, putting the clouds, but that are all different layers. So you can animate the clouds and make it morph together and also rotate around the Earth. Depends on how pay your client and how quickly you need to create. You're gonna dedicate more time than the others. For example, if you make a globe for a news intro, you make it like more graphic style. But from movies, you're trying to get into the detail perfectly to try to convince the audience that was real.
Right.
And we made both of those situations, even creating also satellites.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, and if people have not seen Globebusters, you should, and congratulations to us that today we hit 40,000 subscribers, which is unbelievable, amazing, something that was never expected when it was just started 3 years ago is, hey, let's go live tonight and call it Globebusters, and that was, the rest is history. But so congratulations on us for that. Thank you, Bob. And I know he's out there. Thank you, Bob. Thank you all the mods, too, and everybody in the chat. Appreciate you joining us. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to have Iru kind of present, do a presentation. He does this a lot on Globebusters, and if anybody's watched the show, you'll know he has great organizational skills, far beyond mine. He's able to pull up videos and some of his 3D graphics so quickly and fluidly that sometimes you think he's got it ready, where no, he just went and grabbed it out of his computer and decided to share it just because we were talking about it. So he's got a little bit of a presentation tonight, but you can also see, I'm sure he's got in the presentation some of his 3D modeling, or go watch the show from today. I thought today he did a great job showing how the rays of the sun are actually radial and are not parallel unless you're looking at a very local area. So if you go outside today with the sun out and you're looking at two telephone poles, chances are those shadows are going to appear to you to be perfectly parallel. He showed today how if we took a camera and moved it back away from the earth or got up higher, we would get to see the truth about those shadows. So I thought that was really good. But those are the kind of things I think that are presented by Iru that are without par. I don't think anybody else does as good a job at kind of busting NASA. And I have to say, for me, I thought there'd be so many more people that would see some of the stuff, and I'm not tooting my horn. I'm just saying when I started to discover some of this stuff, I said, well, man, all other people need to do is start seeing what I'm seeing, and they'll start making videos of themselves, and that's what Iru did. I'm not sure where it coincided with my stuff, but it seemed like I loved watching.
A lot.
Yeah, and I loved watching Iru's stuff. Anybody else doing NASA debunking or Mike Helmick, or there's so many people in the community, other people that have really tore NASA a new one, and so hopefully we get to see that tonight. So Iru, without further ado, floor is yours. Present.
Okay. Oh man, you are telling me that I can present.
I know,
my
it's
screen.
rare.
No, I can't believe this is. You're gonna kill me, man. It's so exciting.
I just hope your sound works and we don't have any audio issues, then we'll be fine.
Okay. I'm going to start sharing my screen. It's internal shock, for the people
Yes.
that maybe doesn't understand why I'm so happy to share my screen. So I start presenting now. I don't know if you are looking at me. I'm going to turn off my camera so I don't waste bytes.
Yep, you're perfect, and I squared up your screen. You're ready to go.
Okay, so really quickly, I was in terms of, for example, the topic that I talked a few minutes ago, talking about creating the spherical Earth. For example, we can see the famous Tesla car in space, supposedly. And if you go just simply to one of the most commercial sites to buy a 3D model when you don't have the time to start creating models, for example, Turbo Squid. And here you can see this is a planet Earth from $500. And if you start compare that, it's like the same kind of situation. I mean, there is not much difference in this Australia and in this Australia. In fact, if you are in the background of the motion graphic and special effects, you're gonna see that shadow there, this sharp, black shadow from the clouds. This is a bump channel. It's just a black and white image that you put to give the feeling of some kind of depth. But I mean, for me, it's no doubt when you see these crabs, you can really quickly understand how it's made. The other situation is they are faking everything, or they are putting a screen and then make the car rotate in the platform. That is what I believe they're doing. That is why you get this reflection and things like that. But I mean, they can fake it really easy in our days,
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the stuff that they're using now and this augmented reality too. I mean, it's just the time has passed for us to be able to really pick apart some of their footage. That's why I love going through the old stuff, because it seems like with the newer stuff, it's going to be tough to differentiate real from fake. And that's why we're trying to point out as much as we can this stuff now, because motion graphics are getting too good.
Yeah. In fact, that is why for me in the old days, they have making better, because what they did is just painting a ball. And this is, a U.S. patent. I mean, this is in Spanish, but it said like a device for reproduce illusion effects. And this was patented on 1905. And you can see the example. The example is a sphere with the world painting over. And then you have, for example, the Mercury engineering trying to cheat us, basically. And that is why the people say, hey, at that time, there wasn't any kind of digital composition, of course, but there was matte painting by hand and analog composition. So they paint in the balls and they film those painting balls, and that is all. It doesn't have any kind of irregular situation, or you didn't, be a magician to create this. The matte painting artist exists from the Hollywood start. It's one of the most oldest techniques to recreate a landscape that you never gonna have in real life. So
Right. And then think of how easy it would be to, circulate a sun around it and get your shadows and get your, people would say, oh, well, it matches what we see, and it matches what you would see on this supposed sphere that they've obviously presupposed and told you live on. So, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, one of the most iconic guys behind the fake moon landing, it was this guy. All the time I show Roger Hayward, which was a Freemasonry guy. He worked for Walt Disney, for the CBS, and this was known in Hollywood like the guy who created the moon. And he make all these models, and then they project into infinity motion system to record and present it like you see here. This kind of image is just a miniature in front of a screen, and the screen is playing an infinite loop, and that is why you have like 10 different style on the moon landing when they show the outside pictures. You can see like a really sharp moon, and then you pass from this kind of really sharp image, really clear image, to these ones like it was like self-illumination sphere. And you say, why is that difference between one take and the other? And this is why. Basically,
yeah,
is the techniques that they are using. I mean, this kind of, when you see here, you say you mean this moon is like a transparent moon, and that is because it's a screen, and you have the own light in the screen,
right?
And you have the miniature in front.
Yep. And why would they need to be doing that kind of detail unless you were going to be trying to fake the landing of it?
Exactly.
There's no need.
Exactly, man. And the Russians guys are making the same thing, and there is all part of the team. The Russians are no longer Russian after the first World War, so they have everything arranged and really easy for cheat people at that time. I mean, we are talking about a time in history that you are not able to even raise up the hand to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, my presentation is going to come more to that side than the technical stuff.
Okay. And Iru, just so people know, I wanted to point out that in the description is both your website and your channel. But how many subs did you have on your channel when it was removed?
I was 14,000. I was hand by hand with Globbuster subscribers, and they closed my channel. And I mean regular guys who are not sharing my research, and they are a really huge fan of NASA and Anunnakis and reptilians stuff. So they start to sending message to Mr. Google and Mr. YouTube, and Mr. YouTube attended those message and closed my channel. So nice right now, this is my main channel, which is with 12,000 subscribers. I also have a secondary channel with 14,000 subscribers. But since that, I create my own web page where I put all the research that I made. And in fact, I also add some YouTube channels in the Spanish language and also in English language, just for sharing. And soon I'm going to translate the web. Until now, you just can click translate to English, and you're going to have at least, where is text, HTML text, you're going to be translated. Of course, the video, no. But my idea on the videos are just, it's in a Spanish video, but a lot of my video has, that, like I show today in Globbuster, that has that tiny part when it doesn't matter if you understand or not the Spanish. Where you see is the important thing.
Right, the visuals are the important.
Exactly. Okay. So this is part of my presentation that I made in the UK convention. in the early of this year, in April. So at that time, I make it really fast because the time, the clock start ticking, and I only have 1 hour, and I have a lot of information to share. So if you don't mind, man, we can spend in the next 2 hours sharing this stuff.
Shoot it. Let's go.
And I'm going to start, this is my YouTube channel that I show a few seconds ago. And my presentation is based, the presentation has a lot of slides, and I'm not going to show everything because it's a lot, and part of this is going to be presented in Denver. And in fact, all the slides that talks about the electrical universe, I just scrolling down to everyone see how much information that I have in this PowerPoint. Is about 5 gigabytes of of information. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Try and pick the best stuff if you want. Maybe we could try and keep it to an hour, but you can go as long as you want. If you've got good stuff to share, share it.
Okay.
I ain't going nowhere.
In fact, maybe if it's a little longer, you can split in two after that.
Okay.
What you can do whatever you want, but I want to go in the first 60 slides, which is more in the social situation about flat Earth. It's mixing with technical things, but for me, one of the most important topics is trying to understand why and how and who are creating the heliocentric model from the scratch, and how it's easy to to put that kind of belief into the people when you're controlling the media. And this is why I like to share this presentation. It's not just technical stuff like I regularly do in Globebuster or even in my channel. So maybe something that some videos that I'm going to show, everyone have been see it before. But for the, because I want to keep the order of the slides, I'm going to present it also. So, like this kind of video that I'm going to show, everyone see Obama talking about the flat Earth. But the real thing is a lot of people that they doesn't believe or they don't give any attention to the flat Earth. When you show real people talking about this at this level, because a president is, for the regular mindset of the people, the president of the United States is like God on the earth. So when you start looking and when they start seeing these kind of characters talking about the flat earth, they start to wondering, what is going on? Why this kind of guy, which supposedly is a governmental guy, why he's talking about the flat earth? And he didn't once, he didn't twice, he didn't like 6 times, 5 times, and also other guys, and that spread into mass media like sports or whatever show you want to call it, because it spread all over the place. So that is, for me at least, is something that at that time caught my attention and start thinking, what is going on? Why these guys are talking about the flat earth? So I'm going to play this, and I'm going to use this little video about a minute, and you tell me that everything is good with the audio.
Sounds good. I think it should be okay.
I say that the world is round and someone else says it's flat.
If some of these folks were around when Columbus set sail, they must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society. They would not have believed that the world was round. We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
Let me just underscore, you don't need to be a scientist to know that the Earth is round.
And we need to make clear that those members of the Flat Earth Society,
The current members of the Flat Earth Society in Congress,
We got some people at high levels of aspiration who are the flat Earth. We have Flat Earth Caucus.
The Earth isn't flat.
in other breaking news, the world is round, not flat.
And you don't need to be a scientist
And we need, as responsible leaders, to take account of science.
Thank you. Just the United States of America.
So we prepared a contingency communications procedure. And guess what? We don't need that anymore.
There should be a legitimate debate between whether the Earth is round or flat. Because after all, any idiot can walk outside and look and see that it's flat. To debate this?
Is NASA lying to us?
And this is, basically what caught my attention. And this is another kind of show that, I believe in our days, from the beginning to now, you are not going to be able to put all the quotations about flat Earth in the media. Because it's like rise up a huge number.
Yep. And everybody, just so you know, you're listening to Jeranism Live, and I'm here with Iru Landucci, a CGI artist who obviously has seen what NASA is doing and is now in the camp of the belief that NASA is faking space. So go ahead, continue, Iru.
Okay, so after that, that I just put as example because, like I said before, for, normal people out there, trying to live every day, when they see this kind of guys talking about the flat Earth, it's really shocking. At least I tested with my family when I show this kind of situation. I say, why Obama is talking about the flat Earth or Sean Kerry or, so, and even in the regular science programs or news, and that was really, like a starting point for so many people. Of course, then everybody knows that when you go to statistics, you're going to find, like, surprisingly, because I never think in this situation where it's, prestigious companies, when they present some of these statistics, they talk about like 1 in 4 Americans thinks the sun goes around the Earth, and 1 of 3 Russians thinks like the sun spins around the Earth, which is something that maybe if you don't read it, you never think about it. I mean, right. You see all day looking up in the sky and see that the moon and the sun have the same size, spinning around above you, but you never think it in that thing.
No, nobody watches a sunset and thinks to themselves, "Oh, I happen to be falling backwards at, twice the speed of sound, and that's why I'm seeing the sunset." Even though that's what you have to believe if you're a heliocentrist, that the sun is not moving, that you're the one spinning away from it, and you just don't think about it.
Exactly, and this is just a few articles. You can find it out there now. Supposedly, like the 3% of Russians believe in flat Earth, which is a huge number. In fact, 1 in 4 Americans is like 100 million of people just in America. And you start feeling that you are not alone, when you start have this kind of thinking. And at that time, when I was prepared this presentation from the UK convention, I just captured this image, trying to show some statistics. And that time, when you get into YouTube and type flat Earth and you filter by uploading videos, this was the results that YouTube gave me. And now, for example, if I make the same thing and I type flat Earth and I filter by uploading date, nothing happened. I mean, maybe it's something here in my machine, but they don't show you any kind of number, or at least I didn't see it in my browser. But I tried in regular Internet Explorer, in Chrome, in Opera, and Mozilla, and it's like they changed this. In fact, it's not only changed it. When I did it live, the result was 30 million. So, I did it live on one of my shows here in Argentina, and I say, what happened? 1 week ago was 20 millions, and now it's just 13 millions. And now I can't even find it anymore. So, you start wondering why this kind of, like they're trying to hide something.
Right. Yeah, I just did the same thing for my machine and got the same results. So yeah, I don't see a number there.
And I don't know why they changed that situation. I mean, it could be inside, if you instead of touch 1-2 buttons, you must go another page and do another things. But before it was just one click, and now you don't have it more in one click.
Mm-hmm.
So after this, when you go to, at our days, 2017 and 2018, because we are, I think we are creating and making some really, really nice work spreading this topic. The mass media and all the guys out there, they don't have any more chance that attempting this situation and trying to ridiculize or do something else to try to distract you. And I represent this in this short clip based on media, and I'm going to make a play.
And the number of people who think so is growing. You may think it sounds crazy, but in 2017, thousands, if not millions of people still believe the world is flat.
Now, scientists say that's actually a symptom of a bigger problem, and it's the subject of tonight's special report. Flat Earth theory is actually getting pretty popular.
Yeah, believe it or not, in 2017, the number of people who believe the Earth is flat is actually growing. The biggest concern with the Flat Earth movement is how fast it's gaining steam. To leave you with a scary thought this Halloween night, scientists are worried that Flat Earth could become a political issue, like climate change, vaccination, or evolution. Guys.
All right, fascinating stuff. All right, Aaron, thank you.
Very interesting. All right. Oh,
my goodness.
So we're talking science stuff.
All of this with the global warming and that, a lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay? It's a hoax.
And I put that short clip because when you start looking and you start hearing the guys on the mass media, of course, that is only one TV show, but represent a lot of other TV shows. And they finish the presentation or the news talking about the political issue like climate change, vaccination, and evolution. So why the people in 21st century start questioning these three pillars? You must be wondering, because the people is not turning crazy.
Right.
And and when you have this kind of character like Donald Trump talking about the industry and the business of the global warming, of course, a lot of people can think, no, but that is a puppet. I don't believe anything that guy says. And you can choose whatever you want. But we have a Nobel Prize, Ivar Gavier. He was a Nobel Prize from physicist in 1973, and he is talking the same thing. So you don't even take into consideration the words of a Nobel Prize guy, which said the same thing.
Global warming really has become a new religion because you can't discuss it. It's not proper. And they say you cannot discuss global warming because we believe it's happening.
And I just put, a little part, but he have a lot of presentation talking about how the commit of the global warming are pushing him to participate and give numbers that they are fake numbers about the global warming. Mm-hmm. So the guy said, okay, I don't want anymore the Nobel Prize. Take it away. I am not going to lie people. And he started a campaign doing presentation talking about that the global warming as they present it is fake.
And you said he's won a Nobel Prize. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and you can find it the presentations online of that guy. And I just put that little clip just to people understand what I'm talking about, but he have a full presentation that are really showing the relation He talks about the religion behavior behind the global warming. And that is what we see with the science today. We start seeing that the heliocentric model is a religion, it's not science. So you have, that parallel situation between all the topics, because evolution is also become a religion.
Yep, and one of the, if not the worst religion that there is, because they don't even know that it's a religion. At least other religions know that they are basing their beliefs off a belief system, and they know they can't prove that, Jesus rose from the dead, or they know they can't prove this or that, but they at least accept the fact that, I can't prove it, but I'm basing it on my faith. Well, the problem with heliocentrism is these people think that these things are based on facts, that we know the distances to these stars, and we know that the sun is 867,000 miles wide, when it's just a religion. Those are your beliefs. They're no different than a Catholic's beliefs or somebody else. It's just a belief.
Exactly. At least when you go to religion, they don't lie. I mean, they lie a lot, but they telling you must have faith.
Right.
But when you go to some science place, they don't tell you that. They talk about facts, not about faith. So this is a short clip, just to illustrate my point, because I want to get to the point with understanding who create the educational system and how they are, mix science with religion inside our educational system and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to play this short clip. Of course, everyone out there seeing what I'm going to show, but it's just for taking the things in order.
Is it round or flat? Don't ask a brat. Results from a new study reveal a third of young American millennials aren't sure that the Earth is round.
National poll found that 18 to 24-year-olds are the largest group in the country who believe the Earth could be flat. It seems the older you get, the more you believe the Earth is round.
Here's what 18 to 24-year-olds said when asked, do you believe the world is round or flat? 66% have always believed the Earth is round, yippee. 9% always thought the world was round, but more recently became skeptical. 5% always thought the world was flat, but more recently had doubts. Good for them. 4% always believe the world is flat.
That people should have a better understanding of why it is they believe what they believe. And they'll just say, because the answer really is because all the smart people say so. And that should never be your baseline of why you think something is or is not true. I did not think I'd get applause for that, by the way. That was nice.
And that for me is the really starting point. I never in my life, before entering the flat earth system, I never questioned myself why I believe what I believe. And exactly that he said, I believe because I assume that people is more intelligent than me. Mm-hmm. And when you start research, you start finding that guy maybe could be or not more intelligent than you, but he also is lying. Or at least is that possibility. Because he took the information from other and from other and from other. And when you start going back, you're going to see who was the first institution that present that information. And you're going to realize that guy who teach you, they don't, or at least, he never questioned himself why they believe or teach what they teach, what he teach.
Right, yeah. No, Max Planck quote says that anybody who has been seriously engaged in scientific work of any kind realizes that over the entrance to the gates of the temple of science are written the words, ye must have faith. It is a quality which the scientist cannot dispense with. So yeah, how many people think that science doesn't have anything faith related, that it has nothing that has to do with faith, when they don't realize the entire body of science is a faith-based system? And Max Planck, one of the greatest, is right here saying that the entrance to the gates of the scientific temple says ye must have faith.
Yeah. In fact, here we have iconic picture when you enter into one of the biggest lodge of Masonic, that the poster or the image in top of the ceremony rooms, it's tell you faith in science directly to your face. I mean, without any kind of reinterpretation. I mean, it's faith in science, and I'm talking about this image here. Let me just put in there this triangle here up in this upper part of the door. It says, I'm going to translate, but it says wisdom, strength, and beauty. And here it said faith in science. And you have the Jesuit sun, which you can recognize by the straight triangle and the wavy lines here, representing the duality of the light. And here it says science, justice, and work, hope, and like friendship, brotherhood. So why into a Masonic lodge talk about this faith in science? And when you see the whole picture, this is why, because for the Big Bang, for the evolution, for the gravity, for the spherical Earth, you must have faith. You're never going to see it. You're never going to prove it. And some really nice paragraph that the woman in the news said. It was it's like when you get older, you're going to believe more in the spherical Earth, but when you are younger, you're going to believe less in the spherical Earth. And for me, it's a really important situation to understand, because that is why we are rape in the childhood and put so many ideas that you're never going to prove. And you have the institution, at least for the occidental part of the world, which is in arrangement with all the other institutions like the ONU, like the OMS, like the OTAN, like the FMI, with the UNESCO, which is all made in the same base, owners. I mean, they create all these institutions, are the same guys that present even the information of the mass media, the science information. They are all the same guys. Mm-hmm. So when you start looking into UNESCO, you immediately you are going to find that the mystical and the hermetic and the mystery school are presented just in that institution at the beginning of the creation of the UNESCO. Of course, the UNESCO is the educational, scientific, and cultural organization. It's not just an educational, it's the institution that create the regular, stuff for the school children or the higher school. No, it create also the scientific education, not just the cultural. We know, that the words, I like to study the words, and because in the words you're gonna have a lot of symbology, and all the time these guys are referring to one, to the one order, the one world, the one institution, and you're gonna see it, when you read from left to right, or when you read right to left, or in so many language, because maybe if you are an English guy, you're never gonna understand what it means une, but if you are in Spanish, you're gonna understand that. And they create all these layers of symbology for distract you, or for you didn't understand what they are talking about. So when you go to the first reference, who was the first director, for example, of the UNESCO, you're going to find that was Julian Huxley, from the British family of Huxley, which was an internationalist, eugenist. He was the first director of the UNESCO, and he also was a British gentleman. And of course, he was, the family was the famous for beginning supporting the Charles Darwin religion. And that is, you're going to start to realize that the educational system is just to create, little humans, robots to work for the factory and just receive not education, but instead you receive an indoctrination. You receive like a software to do what they want you to do.
Right.
And the brother,
he's a eugenics, right? He was into eugenics, which is
exactly
the science of improving the human population by selective breeding, basically.
Yeah, the whole evolution theory of Darwin was based on Malthus studies that he said the more rich people is going to survive. Not the more efficient based on nature. It's an eugenetic behavior. They want that. In fact, in the Malthus studies that also taken from Charles Darwin, he talks about like the white people and rich people are at the end of the evolution chain, and the black people and women, are in in a situation which doesn't have any value at all. It's just for work, And if you want, you can go really deeply and study the original book of Charles Darwin, and you're gonna see the kind of spirit these people have.
Now,
and of course, the brother.
Okay. You were gonna get into it. I was gonna say, isn't he the brother to Aldous Huxley?
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Exactly. No. You can have all the descendant tree of these guys, and he was the brother of Aldous Huxley, which was famous to work in the mysticism world, spiritual subjects, parapsychology. He create a happy world. He create the perception, the door of perception, the Iceland, which is like, we can create human to take advantage of what we want, the organs or the handwork or whatever you need, because they are just like, meat walking, And he also write the adaptation of Alice in the Wonderland, which is a really occultist movie from Disney, and something like, for example, The Demons. He was the brother of the guy who directed the UNESCO.
Yeah.
So
and, Brave New World is the book that people in the United States would be familiar with because we were all required to read it. So most high schools required you to read Brave New World, which was by Aldous Huxley.
Exactly, and if you share the bloodline, I believe these guys sometimes they get together and to have a dinner with the rest of the family and talk about, hey, how we can what are you going to teach in the school?
Right.
What are you going to be your plan of study?
And I've told people before, do you really have to put yourself in a position of being a rich family with a lot of power? And if you got together and decided, hey, what are we going to put in school books? You need to think to yourself, would it be we want all these children growing up to be as smart as we are? We want them to know the truth. We want them to challenge our business. We want them to try and take our money. Or do you think their mindset is more of one where they say, well, if we make all these children coming up as dumb as possible and have them all believe the same thing, we stay in power, we keep our money, and we keep getting richer? I mean, which one really makes more sense if you think about it? There's just not a lot of rich people out there saying, how can we give all of our money and all of our knowledge and all of our power away? It just doesn't happen.
Exactly. That is why for me it's really important to understand how we get here at our day, believing a lot of bullshit that you're never going to feel it or prove it or measure, but you still have faith in that. And this is where it started, in the modern life, because it's come from 500 years ago. But like you said before, he's considered one of the most important representatives of modern thought. So this guy, which was a mysticist, an occultist, which, well, and I just, this is, I take from Robert Bassano YouTube channel. This is one of great document he present, and here is the same. In our educational system here in Argentina, we have the same books and the same thing. It's not just something like happened in the United States or in Europe. It's all part of it because it's all made by UNESCO, which represent the unique institution for planning the studies. And for example, here you can just see a study made in the Illinois University. Here is the name of the project. You can download because it's available. But the bottom part of this is like they mix together guys, children's from 19 Greek children with 60 United States children to ask they for how they perceive the day and night, the movement of the earth, what they think about it is gravity, the movement of the earth, and the rotation around the sun, because they want to trying to see how the people, when you are young, start to questioning the model. Because,
right.
Okay, no, I believe you're gonna extend it a little bit.
Nope, no, you're doing perfect.
Okay.
I totally agree with everything you're saying, and that's definitely what they've done from day one.
And of course, for the people in the chat and the people is gonna see maybe tomorrow, as my English is. I know you understand what I'm saying, but please take into account that if I make this in Spanish, I'm gonna have a more tool and more language to develop the main goal of my presentation. So the result of the study showed that the children in both samples construct similar initial concept about the Earth. Both the Greeks and the American children conceptualized that the Earth as flat and stationary, and thought it was located in the middle of the solar system. They also thought that things fall down not towards the center of the Earth, a spherical Earth, and that the day and night cycle is caused by the movement of the sun and the moon. In the process of changing this concept, the Greek and American children form similar misconceptions. So they are called it, if you think all this, there are misconceptions. They put you in that place, you are wrong immediately. And that is, it's all about it. I mean, I can see with the sons of my brother in comparison with myself. I start study the solar system at the age of like 8 years old, and now you have in the kindergarten when the child he never even know how represent 10 centimeters. They are talking about 19 years. They don't have any kind of rebuttal opportunity because they don't understand nothing. But they put the software at, the most young you are, the better to indoctrinate you with this system. Mm-hmm. So when you go to, for example, this is a text from the university here in Argentina. When you go at the first year in University of Psychology, for example, they give you this paper to read. Of course, it's a book, it's a complete book. This is just a page of that. But I show this because for this heliocentric radiation, it doesn't matter the age. They're going to start as soon as possible, but they are going to keep repeating through the age of your life. And you must be taken into account that a person here in Argentina entered to the university at the age of 18 years old, 19 years old. So the first thing you're going to read, for example, in all social studies. It's not just in psychology. It doesn't matter. It's based on the social careers. They're going to teach you like the heliocentric theory, the evolution of the species theory. In fact, they type theory, and the discovery of the unconsciousness based on the Freud ideas. So here you can see the same behavior, the same planning of brainwashing. So when you start looking out there, all the careers that you can pick up and choose for your life, when you see here, there's one that you can choose to study. And it's in a green color from the center to the top. And yeah, it's exactly that one, which is the astronaut career. So, for example, for being a pope, you're not going to study that. I mean, you're going to be selected by a finger. To be an astronaut is the same. To be a 33-degree Mason is going to be the same. There are for be the director of the ONU, of the director of the UNESCO, of the director of the OMS, all those institutions that really have an impact in the real life of the people doesn't enter in the democracy system because you are not going to select them. No one of those representative, help me. Well, I want chairs, if you want to see like in that way.
Right.
You're not going to select any of those people that are going to sit on those chairs.
Mm-hmm.
And when the people start asking, but if the flat earth was true, you have to have, so many people into the conspiracy to, all the pilots of all the mathematicians, all the biologists, all the blah, blah, blah. No, because they are received the same educational system.
Right. Yeah, they're all reading from the same books. And I've said before that, no astrophysicist has been to space, so therefore all astrophysicists who are the PhD, the smartest it gets when it comes to outer space, none of them have ever been there. Zero. And it's just something that, of course they all believe the same thing. They're given the same textbook and told that they have to regurgitate it. And whoever does the best at memorizing what's in that book, those are the people that become your astrophysicists. Whoever are interested in those mathematical equations and the fantasies that they put on paper, those are the people that move on and then teach that to the younger generation. So, no, none of them have to be in on the lie at all. Zero.
Exactly. In fact, as we're going to see, all the, when you're talking about, I like to see in this, like this, I'm opening the image in the other monitor, so that is why I'm taking my time. But I like to see these, equations and all this system like an old computer system. And I mean this. In early times, even in until 1960, 1970, before the first computer graphic was created, for convincing people about the spherical Earth or the gravity or whatever, those things that you never can test in lab, you create equations, and the mind of the people that receive the instruction to interpret these numbers, they create in the mind, in their brain, the image. Mm-hmm. It's like the computer does today. When I look, or when I show this helmet here, and sorry because I opened this, is from a work, but when you see this situation here, you believe this is a real object inside the computer, but it's just number. The computer have the instruction via the programming software to interpret those vectors into polygons and then into a coherent shape. And when I click render, it represents all these lines with the light bounces, the shaders, the shadows, blah, 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 blah. And you have the image. But this same concept was this one, from the mathematicians or the physicists. These numbers represent an idea into your brain to understand what they're trying to show you that is impossible to show, which is a black hole, or which is, all these supposedly forces out there. So they put into your mind a lot of numbers, and your brain is start forming that picture instead of computer.
Right. Mathematically, they can show you some idea of the Big Bang, but that's why it makes no sense to talk about when you're saying everything came from nothing in a nanosecond or in an instant, and there wasn't even space here. Then all of a sudden now there's space, and it's all mathematical. It's just their version of the same pictures that maybe we have in our mind when we picture an exploding star or something's exploding, but it's just a different way of looking at it, a mathematical way. And yeah, is it more exact than a mental picture? Sure, but the problem is it doesn't make it real.
Exactly. It doesn't make it real. Doesn't matter the beauty of the equation.
No.
It doesn't make it real.
Nope.
And so when when they start, I just show a few modern examples and what we are today with the educational system based on heliocentric concepts. But when you start looking backwards, because, for example, when you start asking who determinate the distance from the Earth to the Sun and how, in that time, you're going to see a Jesuit put in there. When you start asking who create the concept of the Earth being spherical and have a core, melting, core inside, it was a Jesuit. Who created the first system of projection image? It was a Jesuit. And everything you start looking in the Occidental part of the world, which supposedly was made by scientists out of the dogmatic system, it doesn't come to that. It was made from a guy who was maybe a scientist, but inside of the dogmatic system. Mm-hmm. So when you start asking what was the, quote unquote, the first universities, the first one verse of the history, where it come from, you're going to see, of course, the first guys who have access for study. We must be back really, really in the beginning of time, if you want to see like that. It was just religious people. Mm-hmm. Nobody get access to study like maybe you have today. It doesn't matter if you have money or not. You must give your entire life to the order and enter in some religious institution. It doesn't matter if it was the Catholic or the Christian or the Veda or the Buddha. It doesn't, or the Sumerian or Babylonian. It doesn't matter. You must enter into this order, which never was allowed to enter women's, for example. It's just men's, and you give your life to the order to have access to understand what letters means, words means, because the rest of the world is just workers.
Mm-hmm. Illiterate, usually. Especially back then. They couldn't even read or write.
Nothing. In fact, that is one of the first things that I'm starting to say, okay, man, the Bible, for example, who write the Bible? Because if you want to believe the original story, the apostles, they don't know how to write. They don't know how to, they are not educational people. They
Right.
just fishing guys, supposedly. And at that time, they don't even have ink or paper to write nothing. They don't come to home and say, I'm going to write what Jesus tell me.
No.
And pick up a paper and then, a pencil and start writing.
No, and it was over 100 years till they even say that happened. So yeah, it's an oral tradition, passed from mouth to mouth, and then written down long after. Same thing with the first part of the Bible.
Exactly. But again, for having that kind of knowledge and having that kind of access, you can be a regular people and say, I'm going to be a study, and then get away from the order and live my regular life with my family.
Right.
Never. So the first guy who started studying the sky, the cosmology, the mathematics, the alchemy, the biology, all that kind of real important knowledge, there was all highest priest. They never was, regular people. So after that, you're trying to look at like in the timeline. After these guys, put all together and start saying, okay, we need to create, like people that represent us in the community, and start creating these layers of power, which in our days you can see it like the Masonic guys or the Illuminati or the Malta Order, or you can name it, because in our days we have a lot of them. It was the alchemist. This kind of knowledge, the first people that receive, and that is my opinion, okay? But the first people that start receiving this kind of knowledge was the guy who ended be, like an alchemist, like these people that live all the time inside of, quote unquote, lab or laboratory and work for the queen, for the crown, or for the church, and makes things like, like in our days, who finance, who give the money to the scientists? The same institutions.
Right. Governments.
Exactly, governments. And when you start looking, who give the money to Galileo? It was who? The church.
Mm-hmm.
Who give the money to Newton or to Kepler? Who put the money to make that discoveries or creating the tools? It was the church. So when you start following the route of the money, you're gonna see who is behind.
Yeah, and if you really want to get crazy, you look into the Jesuits and Islam. As crazy as that might sound to people, could Islam have been created by the Jesuits and the Vatican? When you look at the Quran, the only woman mentioned in the Quran is Miriam, which is Mary, Jesus' mom. She was born without original sin. The Quran mentions Jesus more than it mentions Muhammad. The Quran says that Jesus will return. It says that he will come again, but it doesn't say that about Muhammad. It says Muhammad is dead and will never return. So really, it says that Jesus is the Word of God, that he's God's representative. So when you really look at the Islamic story, all of a sudden you see it's just the Catholic story with some added pieces, and really it looks like it's created by the Vatican. And look at the wars, and look at the people killing each other over a book that is basically saying the same thing.
In fact, the Masonic Lodge, it's, when you go to history, you're going to see that was created by Jesuit order. Because they use all the Orwellian way of thinking. They create the opposite and, the synthesis and the, I don't know how is the name in English.
Yeah, antithesis.
Exactly. And they give you the final result. And so when you start looking into the symbols inside of Freemasonic Lodge, you're going to find the same symbols as you have in the Jesuit order and the Jewish order. In fact, one of the most biggest lodge in our days of Masonic order is from Jesuit. From Jewish people. And it's a name that I can't recall now, but you haven't there. Because when you understand the symbols, you're gonna understand a lot of other things that you are not going to understand ever if you don't look into the symbology. That is why they put that famous pyramid with the eye in the $1 bill. So you must study this kind of information, like the Kabbalah and the alchemist and the symbology, because if not, you are not going to understand nothing about even science or religion or whatever you can name it, whatever you need to understand. You must understand how it was created.
Yeah, and I think some people are missing the point. I see some people in the chat saying, read the Quran. It says that God has no son, and that means that they're different. Well, that's the point. It's just like when we say that the Jesuits may have started both science and religion and pushed both of them. So you might say, well, they're totally different. One says Big Bang, one says creation. One says that the Earth is 6,000 years old. The other one says 4.54 billion. Well, yeah, they're different things, but we're saying that the same group pushed both stories. So what I'm saying is the same story. Yeah, in Catholicism or Christianity, Jesus is God's son. In Islam, he is not. But if you look at the people who wrote each one, if it's the same person, then that's how you would write it, because you want to have control over both people. Meaning, if you think Jesus is God's son, then you'll be a Christian, and if you think he's not his son, well, then maybe you'll be a Muslim. So it's kind of the same thing. Where that's my opinion. That's why. And I went to a Jesuit high school. I've told people that many times. And what I thought was the strangest thing about that high school is that they pushed both religion and science. And that's what turned me away from school. As I said, I don't understand any of this because I grew up religious, and then all of a sudden I'm going to a Catholic high school to where they're pushing religion and teaching you Big Bang and teaching you these things that I thought we weren't really believing, and it kind of got me stuck. But now I look back and realize, well, they want to push either one because either one is a belief system, and they don't care which belief system you adhere to, whether you adhere to the strictly Catholic belief system or whether you adhere to the strictly scientific belief system. Both of them are belief systems, which means they control you. That's their whole goal. That's everything that we're talking about. If you believe what they tell you, they control you.
Exactly. In fact, I like to think in the way that we, as Occidental people, we read books that was translated by English and Romance people. I mean, you don't have the access to the original books of anything that you read from a spiritual world, if you will want to look in that way. Even the Buddhist books you read was translated by English people.
Right. And I always say don't trust men, and that's why I don't have the same belief. Do I think the Bible has truth in it? Absolutely. It's a book written by people. I'm sure there's a lot of truth in it. But when you start to get down to, are we reading original documents? No. That they've been passed through many, many hands and many, many different scribes, and some of them were told to write things into there or may have written things on their own. We don't know, but it's impossible to say it didn't happen. So, if I can't prove that the books that I'm reading are exactly as presented, and that's why I ultimately don't think that, in my belief, I don't think that the Creator wrote a book for that exact reason. If the Creator wrote a book, he would know men would come along and change the words of that book, which would make the book obsolete. It's no longer, that's what men do. Men write books, not gods.
Yeah, in fact, when you start to look into, at least this is my transformation in terms of a spiritual paradigm. I mean, the real book of the Creator is the nature out there.
Absolutely.
When you start to contemplate the aurora borealis, how the water works, how the earth was created, how the weather, the cosmology, all the constellation, the stars, the sun, the moon, that is the book of the Creator.
Yep. And the only
I like
way
to see that way.
Yeah, me too. It makes it more comforting to know that it's the same thing presented to everyone, right? That's the way that it would be done. Not that a book that can be translated, mistranslated, whatever you're talking about, the oral tradition, it's given in a different way. We all know that if you play the telephone game, right, you pass it down and people whisper each other's ear, that the best version of that story is the very first one, is the very first person who heard the words out of the mouth, and then after that it gets scrambled up. Well, we're way at the end of the line now, no matter how you look at it. And I think what Eero's doing a job pointing out too is all these books that we're studying, all these books that were handed out to people were basically printed in the 1600s, 1500s, 1600s, around the same time that all this started to happen. That's when the printing press came into play. And if they were ever going to lie to the entire world, that was the time to do it. That was the
exactly.
time. Yeah, because
in fact, was the church who founded Gutenberg.
Right, exactly. Yep.
I mean,
because it has to be
come on, guys.
financed. Everything has to be financed, and that's another thing that I say that that is a trick by the elite is to teach the world, oh, truth should be free, and so if any kind of truth channel goes out and says, hey, I'm taking donations or we're doing this, well, then everybody comes down on them. Truth should be free. You shouldn't be asking for money. When the secret is that money is responsible for everything that we see happen. The Gutenberg printing press would have never gotten off the floor if it wasn't for being backed by all this government money, or in this case, religious money. But it's the same thing for every journey. Captain Cook, Wilkes, all of these trips down south were all financed heavily by governments and by the Vatican. And that's why they were able to happen. And so today, when somebody's saying, well, how does the sun work? Or what's the angle of the sun? Well, I don't know. And I shouldn't be expected to know. I have not had any government funding to take 2-year trips down south and to track the sun and to get the exactitudes of every direction. Those things were done in the past, and you're free to believe them if you want. But for me, I don't believe them because I just look at the history of them and see Captain Cook turned in his logs to the Queen, and they didn't get, they didn't get put out to the public, or they didn't get produced until 3 years later. In fact, his second journey, his papers were turned in, and he was already gone for his third journey, the one that he supposedly died on in Hawaii. He never got to see the pages of his second journey. So when we're reading that book about what's gone on between Captain Cook and where he went, well, all those things he never even got to read because he was dead first. So it becomes very important to look at who is printing this material, how is it getting out, and go to the Bible and look at who owns the Bible, and how the fact that the crown is the copyright to the Bible. So I mean, it just should make you question as to if you want to believe the Bible because there's lots of good things in it and it teaches you to be a good person. Well, by all means, do that. I don't care how you are a good person, and I don't think that the creator of this world cares how you're a good person. I don't think it matters that, well, this particular person was a good person because they believed in Jesus and they thought Jesus died for their sins. That's fine. You're a good person. But really look at the history of these religions that you're believing in and look at the bloodshed that's been taking place. I mean, that's what convinced people it was okay to have wars, is that you would be forgiven because you were doing it for God's sake. Before that, it wasn't okay just to go around killing people because you knew, or at least people thought, there was a God and you'd be judged on earth, or you'd be judged eventually for your actions. But when it became a holy war and it became the doctrine of discovery, go out to the new world and evangelize and put the cross in the ground, and if people don't listen to you, shame them, make them go off by themselves for days at a time, and if that doesn't change them, then kill them, so that our religion takes over. So recognize that that's the reason that the majority of the United States believes in a religion that was forced upon the people that lived here. It was forced on you. You didn't have a choice. It wasn't like, well, hey, we're bringing over Christianity. Take a look at it. If you like it, join us. If not, don't. There was no choice. So we have the choice at this point in time. And if you still want to follow in the footsteps of those who were forced to believe that, hey, that's your choice.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to live clear out there, they mix true with lies. So for me, the religious books are nice to read it, but you need to contrast with so many other information, because if not, you are not going to extrapolate what is quote unquote true. That is my opinion. Is my method. But I mean, the Bible itself is an astrological book, and is historian book, is a mathematician book, is a occultist book also. So when you go to a regular church, you're going to receive the first layer of that book. You're not going to receive the real meaning of that book. So, and we are never going to receive that, because, for example, why the most important library is in the Vatican and nobody has access?
Right. And I tried. It is not easy. I tried to get access to a book that I know is in there, and there's just no way. You're not going to get it.
Never. You're never going to get there. So, in fact, what I show in these slides is that, the beginning of the educational system was the religious order. Then they transfer and they create all this line of thought based on, like, the Kabbalah, the alchemists, the Jesuits, the Masonic, and you can name it whatever you want. But I mean, that was like the first pass of the information, the filter information. And then, of course, they started to create all the libraries, which, in Spanish, library is pronounced biblioteca, like the Biblia, biblio, because everybody knows that the Bible is like a compendium of many books. It's not just one book. It's taking a lot of writings and put together and form the Bible, which leave apart books like the Enoch books and other don't authorize writings. So they just take it what they was convenient to share with the indoctrination people, and they shared that information, really filtering. And of course, if you want to study, you must go to a monastery. You're never gonna be, I mean, until 19th and 18th centuries, there was no, open school,
right?
Open university. And I was talking about just 150 years ago. We are not talking about 12,000 years ago. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying we're talking hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Even in our day, because it just make the university is like a makeup of those monastery and those one system of education. It's like a makeup, but it still are in church via the church. Like we're gonna see in a few moments. But what I'm trying to say is, you again, to receive education, you need to give your life to these people, and your family needs to put a lot of money, and you're gonna receive not only the scientific quote unquote education, but you're also going to receive how to love the order and to complain the order. And after you go out of this kind of educational system, you have doubt with them, and not just monetary. I don't know if I pronounce well.
Mm-hmm. I think I got it.
Okay, so a few nice characters that appear in the history that nobody talks about it. And for example, the first one that I came across was Kircher has been compared to the fellow Jesuit Roger Boscovich and to Leonardo da Vinci for his enormous range of interest, and has been honored with the title of Master of the 100 Arts. So, all the time in history books, you're gonna have the information about Leonardo da Vinci or Roger Boscovich, but nobody named this guy, which suppose has the same abilities or the same skills of those other two guys. And these guys, of course, when you go to the Wikipedia also, it says like the Jesuit Athanasius Kirchner, a recent postgraduate course of the University of Granada on Hermetism, magic and alchemy has regained its memory. The symbology, secrecy, magic, Kabbalah, that is something that you may think that own the Jewish people. But again, we start to see how these work together. At the end, the Catholics and the Jewish, they use the same customs, the same dress, the same hat. Mm-hmm. They use the same color system. They use the same Bible. They say that Jesus was a Jewish. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can start see how they work together. That is my opinion. This guy also was an alchemy and ultimately an occultist. So why the Jesuit? It's all these titles. All the skill of these guys is all this. The mystery of human knowledge forbidden to mortals and transmitted from remote antiquity from the Egyptian. And then you can start see why you have a pyramid or obelisk in all capital cities in occidental part of the world, and not just the capital cities. I have here in my city like 3. And, I mean, all the occidental part of the world have this kind of monument.
And oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Okay. Please.
I remember you talking about the city that you live in, and it reminded me. Didn't you say that you've got like a center of your city, and then there's like an outer edge that is called Antarctica or something?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about that real quick, just because.
That was that kind of thing that you never think about it until you become a flat earther.
Right. So tell people what it is real quick, just because I can't quite remember. I remember you saying it was this over a year ago.
Yeah, I am looking for the picture just for illustrate myself when I speaking. This is my city. This is this is the city of Washington. You can see here the pentagram, and this is the city of Buenos Aires, which is the capital of my country, of Argentina. In the middle of the capital of my country, you have this huge obelisk. And not just that, recently, like I don't recall if it was 8, 10 or 5 years ago, there was a reconstruction of this part of the square around the obelisk. And the shape of this new architectural shape is the Eye of Horus, that's combined with a really short diagonal which cut there, and this, well, you can see it here. I mean, there is no other kind of explain nothing about that. And this is an obelisk here in my city. This is the city of La Plata, which have the same properties of Washington City, which is it was planning before building the city. So here you can see the square and the compass is forming by this square here with these diagonals. And when you come to, for example, my city is the capital of the capital of Argentina, right? You are following?
Wait, the capital of the capital?
Yeah. My city is the capital of Buenos Aires, and Buenos Aires is the capital of the country.
Okay.
Because
Gotcha.
the most city with all universities in my country is my city.
La Plata.
My city is one of the most important city to the people come from the outside of the country to get an education, because it was made by Masonic guys. So they ponderate the reason age, the educational for the people. Right. So the most important universities are in my city. Mm-hmm. And this square, this rectangle, this square represent the city itself. So when you come from Buenos Aires, you start traveling to the street to get into my city. You start entering for this part, and this street here, it's called Antarctic. So symbolically, you come out from the Antarctic and enter into the Masonic or my city in this case. But this is a Masonic city. You have the name of Antarctic. It's the only street in my city. There is no other street called that. Mm-hmm. In fact, all the street in my city are numbers. They don't use names. You have that name only.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy if you don't understand the symbology behind it, but that is my city, guys. And I have this t-shirt, so you must have in mind that this is a really risk to walk in the neighborhood.
In the name
but
of
you
truth.
Can see. Yeah, I mean, the symbology of the obelisk, you can represent it in our days based on the modern rocket. And that is why they use all the time these symbolic names to trying to penetrate the sky. It's all symbolic. It's all Osiris fault worship. It's all sun worship, like all the religions are worshiping the sun. At least the Occidental religions. I don't mean the more like we have here in Argentina. We have the original guys that was here, that they don't worship the sun. They worship the earth, the Mother Earth, and they consider that the sun and the moon are the childs of the earth, and the earth was created by some intelligence. So getting back here, you start see that this guy, this Athanasov Kirchner, he was, like I said before, an occultist, Kabbalist, a magician, a secrecy, symbology, blah, 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 blah. And they create the first magic lantern, which in our days is Hollywood. Mm-hmm. When you go to cinema, you're going to use an invention made by Jesuits. And look how iconic that it is, the image that they project in the magic lantern. Why they don't project a nice landscape with no, they project a demon. It's crazy, man. I mean, they trying to put all the time, fear in your spirit, fear us, because if you do bad things, you're gonna come a Jesuit Kirchner and gonna rap you. So you can start see how these orders are created based on the Egyptian knowledge and transforming that Egyptian knowledge into their own convenient system. That is how I like to see. So this guy also proposed that the Earth has a nucleus, a molten rocks in the middle. And this was the first guy. So why they never teach you this in school or in the university when they talk about the nucleus of the Earth?
Right. They want you to think that they've sent down probes and have dug down to 4,000 miles or something, when that's not even close to being true.
Exactly. Athanasius Kirchner, sorry for the pronunciation, Kircheri, Mundus Subterraneus. This guy was one of the first in our society to promote this. And you can see the spherical Earth, the volcans, having the veins into some of the deposit of fire, and that deposit connects to a big deposit of fire. And you have here the Coriolis effects, based on the angels that are blowing away the wind. And here you can see the same thing, the concept of the Coriolis effects blowing by these guys. This is the Coriolis effects.
It's more believable than the stuff we're told now. So
I believe that, yeah. And here you can see, the angels contemplating via telescope, trying to penetrate the clouds. Because in this picture there is a lot of symbolic things, and here you can see the sun with the own rays, the own light, the moon with the own light, the shadow maybe come from this object in the middle, which represent the Polaris, and these wings and the snake represent the Aurora Borealis, the green serpent in the sky moving, bringing on the knowledge, the divine energy. And here you can see like another sun emitting rays, which is the Jesuit symbology of the sun that we have in our flag, for example, in Argentina. And this is like another energy and another concept different to the sun and the moon. And of course, the Earth, in this case, is a sphere, but is hanging on the change in the middle where the Polaris is, aligned or passing over, or wherever you want to see it. It's really tricky to interpreted because we are not Jesuit. So, but if you start looking into the time and you start see what symbols are putting the winds and the serpent and the you're gonna realize that, for me at least, this represent the aurora borealis, the Polaris, the moon, the sun, and the shadow, maybe cast by an object in the middle. I just dropping on the table. I am not saying that this is the cause of the shadow in the moon and things like that. But, it's just there in this picture. And of course, like I mentioned before, this was the guy who present us at that time the idea of the nucleus of the spherical Earth, which nobody proved. Everybody knows the super deep collar hole and how the humans in our modern days can reach more than 12 kilometers via machines, and maybe with some radar bounces, you can reach 30-40 kilometers. It doesn't mean that the Earth is a sphere. Only means that the Earth has volume, nothing like that, and nothing more than that.
Nothing more. Nothing telling us there's a molten iron core.
Exactly. So this is what I talked earlier. I mean, don't forget that the Vatican has the most important library out there for share with the people and try, but they never gonna show you and share with you. So forget about that. But why they go into the secrecy? Like this guy, into secrecy all the time. And that, you have the famous speech with Kennedy talking about how disgusting is in our days talking about the secrets and the secret societies. And these are the secret societies. So we are going good, Jen?
Yeah, I would say continue some more.
Okay, perfect. So when you start, after this religious institution, then go to this intermediate institution like the Kabbalah and the alchemists and the Masonic guys, blah, blah, blah. Then come to the universities, and the modern universities was directed by Masonic guys. And that is why there is out there a lot of books that call about the invisible college, the modern birth of science and cultural institutions, and was made by the Royal Society. So when you start looking into the Royal Society, you're going to come across which was the father of the Freemasonry and the Royal Society. And one of those names are the guy who called Elias Ashmole. So he's considered one of the father of the Freemasonry and contribute to his extensive knowledge related to the Egyptian and Hermetic symbol. So you have the connection. He dealt with astrologers, alchemists, mathematicians, and a large number of scholars, along with whom he founded the Royal Society of London and the Philosophical Society of Oxford. So there you have it. I mean, this is the educational system that in our days are based. It's based on alchemists, mathematicians or magicals, Egyptian and Hermetic symbols, and was created by Freemasonry. And who created Freemasonry? The Jesuit order. And who created the Jesuit order? The same school of mystery of the beginning of time. So when you go to Elias Ashmole, you can see a few pictures trying to establish the idea of the spherical Earth, but he also talked about the flat Earth I mean, it's like, if you are inside of these circles, you're going to have some kind of teaching, and outside this circle, you're going to receive another kind of teaching. And that is what is happening today, based on how you pay. But it doesn't matter at what school you go, you're going to receive the same heliocentric model. I didn't know any kind of university that doesn't promote that. It doesn't matter how much you pay, you're going to be a slave.
Right.
So after that, when this guy died, when the magus of Freemasonry, when Elias Ashmole, which is considered a scientist, alchemist, and founder of the Royal Society, dies, it's come this guy, Robert Plot, which he have a really nice surname to all this situation, because when I start looking into trying to associate the crop cycles into the flat earth, this is the guy who present not just the crop cycle, also the first concept art of a dinosaur. And again, nobody talks about this guy in any university that I know. This was an English naturalist, first professor of chemistry at the University of Oxford, and the first keeper of the Ashmolean Museum. In 1686, British naturalist Robert Plot reported on rings or arcs of mushroom, and then comes the famous history of the mowing devil, which was like the first idea of the modern crop cycle. And it's like the aliens.
You're saying crop circle, right? Not crop circle.
Yeah, crop cycle.
Mm-hmm.
I pronounce bad. Sorry.
No, it's good. You're saying cycle. I thought crop circle.
No, sorry. Crop circles.
There you go.
Okay, so thank you. But I mean,
don't mess up again. There's
like
be a test at the end of this.
Okay, thank you, man. thank you. And but it's like the ET is getting better as the modern life come better. I mean, at the first time they draw like this kind of shit in the crops, but even past the time, when the time go by and the technology get better and better, the ETs create better crop cycles. Where is the advanced technology of this alien,
Yeah, it came along.
Something like yeah, they teach with us. Yeah. They are friends of us, yes.
Learn at the same pace, I guess.
Exactly. And this was the first guy who proposed the dinosaurs. It doesn't Darwin or some of his friends. This was the first guy who drew the concept art of a dinosaur, which, is a little suspicious, at least for me.
Before they found any bones.
Before nobody found any bones.
Right.
So when you start looking, you can see how they make like some reverse engineering. Because they took, a little of turtles, a little of giraffe, and a Komodo dragon and rhino, and they created Triceratops, and they created the T-Rex, and it's just that, it's like the first movies of alien invasion in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. They took, like, for example, a little lizard or little ant, and they film with these lenses. And they create like a huge ant walking into the city. And this is the same thing. They took these concepts in their real nature, and they transform in this big, supposedly, dinosaur out there based on the necessity asking for Darwin. Because the first idea for the modern age that we need to find some dinosaur bones was via Darwin. But for me, at least, here you can start see how long they took to planning all this maybe ending with the fake alien invasion. Because I remember Bill Cooper talking about that the first time he listened talking about faking an alien invasion was in 1894 in Japan. Not in our modern age. It was 2 centuries ago. And 4 centuries ago, you have like the first of the beginning of this, ET, alien beings presented. So, in our age, in our times, you're going to still have the same institutional system, which is based in Jesuit schools and universities. Of course, the first, the father or the highest guy in the creation of the Jesuit order supposedly is Loyola, which come from Spain, and that is why you have universities with that name all over the place. You have the symbols, in the institutional religious education. Doesn't matter is from the business society or a scientist society or from Argentina or from United States or whatever. And the people, maybe they don't know that this, all the time when you see this in the round of conspiracy guys, all the time they talk about the Saturn cult, the cult to the Saturn. But they are based on Jesuit. I mean, when you get over the university, they dress up you like a Jesuit. And that is really profound, because this is what I'm trying to talk all this time. I mean, when you go to this institution, you have doubt with this guy because you become like a Jesuit. It's not just you receive education. You transform yourself to these guys. Mm-hmm. And of course, they put the same kind of dress and the same kind of colors. And you have, for example, in the University of Yale, referring to Lux Spiritus, which is like light is the true. All these references to the light, to Luciferian situation. Then you have, for example, another way of coding the reality, which is writing or talking in Latin. And here you have, for example, the OTAN. OTAN have another arm, which is called SHAPE, the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers of Europe. And in their own logo, they have Vigilia Pretium Libertaris, which is mean the price of freedom is the surveillance. And this is an institution that still are working. And that is when you start looking how much increase the surveillance of the citizens.
Jeez.
But they tell you in the face, you want to freedom? This is a price. Mm-hmm. So, for finishing the presentation, for example, some people believe that maybe the words are not important or they are just, random created words. One of the most important words that I learned in this study of how the words are created, it was the word family. Because the word family is presented really, really, with so power to the society by the church. The church is who present the family is the first, all the family together, our family, the family of that or family of this. But of course, because the word family, which comes from Latin, it means slave directly. It means servant or slave. In fact, the word famulus, which here in Argentina, when people come from the Hollywood scenario, we call them famoso. famoso, famulus, it means slave or of the elite. So you have the family, which represent the group of a slave, and then you have the famulus, which represent the slave of the elite. It's like when you go back in time to the Roman Colosseum, and you have that guy which was a famulus fighting, for entertaining the people. Well, that same symbology is our, musicians or actors in Hollywood. So you must be understand, or the people out there must be understand that one of the original language was the Sumerian and pre-Sumerian language, and then start to come in all this, updating of the language. In fact, the Hebrew people, they still remain with more pure language than we used to use, because our Anglo-Saxon and Spanish language, it comes from Greek and Latin, but we have like the worst software for talking,
Mm-hmm.
The most, and for me, this is really hard but you can see all the time, for example, when you talk about, I believe this is, when you talk about life, you're talking about evil.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about my son, it's literally my son. It's, when you're talking about, I can't recall everything, but I mean, you have so many words in English and Spanish that refer to the reverse of supposedly means, which is, something that you can start understand following these breadcrumbs. Of course, this is the famous, all the puppets of the elite are famous, be part of a family, be part of a slavery system. And why we have so many trouble to understand that? Because we don't receive the same educational system that maybe the family member or the lineage, the bloodlines members of these elites have. And I'm talking about even in the universities, they don't receive this kind of educational system, which is the trivium and quadrivium system, which is, they tell you in the face, is cultivated by free men and opposed to the servile art, typical of the servant or slave. So we receive all the time systems based on slavery, not based on freedom. It doesn't matter which school you go. It's the same thing.
And I see that quote you have there in the corner that millionaires don't use astrology, but billionaires do, which is so true. And I've told people before, having the bookstore and the most expensive PDF book that I've ever seen, and I've never been able to get a hold of it, is doing the stock market by the stars. And it's like to get this, it's a PDF, a book, you think you'd be able to get it for free or maybe $50, $100. Go to Amazon and you'll see the book I'm talking about for $8,000. It's a PDF. $8,000, and it's just simply how to play the stock market by the stars. So if you think that that's crazy, and you that's up to you, but you got the J.P. Morgan quote right there telling you that the millionaires don't use astrology, the billionaires do. So
yeah.
Hey, go ahead.
No. Sorry. Keep going.
Nope, go.
Okay. No. What I mean is, that is why is, when you talk about astrology and astronomy, there is this historical battle, because from the astronomy, they want to use the word astrology, because astrology means the study of the stars, but astronomy, it just means naming of the stars. You are not studying the star, you are just naming. And in fact, the church has a unique divisions made by women's sisters to counting the stars. That was the work that the church gave to the women to participate into the the study of the heavens. Just counting the points. You are not able to do anything else. Amazing. But when you start looking into the astrology, you understand that if the Earth is flat and all those lights, even the planets, are close, they have influence on us. Like you have influence from the lamp to your side. So, and that is not only have influence in our, in ourselves, it has influence in all the system, in all the plants, the earth, the water, whatever. So that for me is a really good quote, because that he's telling you that, if you don't understand the cycles, you're never gonna understand the real world. And you can apply that whatever you want, to business or to spiritual guide or whatever.
Hey, Ibra, can you mark this spot right here? Because I think that I was trying to keep my videos at least a little bit shorter. We're at 2 hours right now.
Okay.
So if you stop right here.
I finish here. I finish in these 3 slides.
Okay. Do you want to do the rest of it, though? Because I'm free the rest of the week if you want to come. Oh, I have my show Raw on tomorrow, but maybe Tuesday or Wednesday or.
Yeah, I will like, because something that really like of this presentation is to share with the people until this slide here, that is going to connect with the presentation in the Denver. But in Denver, I only have 50 minutes. So it's a way to share this presentation. So if you want to, I finish right here. I only left these 3 slides before entering the G-matrix.
Okay, perfect.
So this kind of school system, you're gonna see really understanding and teaching via the modern occultist guide, like Aleister Crowley, for example. And that is the gematria. This is the code that the elite used to communicate himself without the masses notice. And if you start following who create or who participate in the creation of the NASA institution, like Chuck Parson, which was a disciple of Aleister Crowley. And Aleister Crowley was a disciple, or he studied the Madame Blavatsky or Albert Pike. So you can start see the connection all the time until our present days with the symbols of Jesuit order and Jewish order. In fact, even I don't know if you guys have it on United States, but here we have a game when you are old, a game which is the square magic, but not with numbers. You just make cross and circles. And if you arrange 3 circles or 3 cross together, you won the win.
Right.
But
tic-tac-toe, it's called here.
Okay. But, all that kind of things, it come from these antique methods. All the time. You have present in a lot of games you do when you are young, is based, believe me or not, on heliocentric system. All the time. So in the antique times, the Masonic has this code to communicate himself. It's like ASCII code in computer, or it's like a crypto language to communicate himself. This is the magic square of Jupiter, the magic square of Mars, and the magic square of Saturn. And all the time they use all these names of the planet, of course. So you can start here, see the connection. And when you start realize that at the end of all this knowledge, it's resumed into vibration. Because a symbol is a vibration to your brain, An equation is a vibration to your brain. The voice, when you speak, when you write a letter, when you write a word, all those are vibrations. It's not just like the vibration is something that, because you drop a rock on the water or you blow the wind in the air or whatever. The brain generates vibration waves. So for me, the concept of if you want to find the secret of the universe, things in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, it's not just trying to understand the optical things that you can see and measure. Vibration is also this concept that I show. And that is my opinion, of course, right? But I mean, who's going to put into a doubt that when you speak, you make vibrations?
Right.
Or when you see a symbol, it's interpreting an image in your brain.
Right.
And for your brain works, it needs to vibrate and have energy and have a frequency. And what gives you the frequency of your brain is your heart. Because the brain is too easy to trick. But the heart, it's a little different. That is why the concept in our modern age is like put into a pedestal the brain. The brain is the most important thing. When you die the brain, you become in the state of vegetarian. I don't know which is the name, but I mean, if you die the brain, you still are alive until your heart stops. If your heart stops, you disintegrate yourself. So for me, it's more important the heart than the brain. Of course, you need both, but if you die your brain, you still have astral emotions. A lot of people that come from the coma talks about seeing the things in the room or have other experience out there. So this is the concept that I like to think beyond the standard concept of Nikola Tesla. And I finish here the presentation, this first part. This is, for me, the Aurora Borealis is like the most, optical concept of the divine energy, of the creation, of the energy that's the ether, or whatever you want to call it. And after this, man, we can finish here, and other time we enter into the schematrics, which means combining the gematria and the actual world that is surround us.
Okay, super. So yeah, I'll talk to you, and if you can do it Tuesday or Wednesday, let's do this again. This way you can continue and finish off your presentation. I know I talked a lot, which I'm sure kept you from moving swiftly through it. So
no, man, I really enjoy that. I really respect your opinion, man. For me, it's better if we do like this.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, I like it too. Okay, great. So thanks to Iru. I wanted to say thank you to the mods. I really appreciate it. You guys are the best. And thanks to everyone for joining me tonight. I appreciate it, obviously, as always. And check the description for links to Iru's website and his channel. Subscribe to him, please. And subscribe to Globebusters so you can hear us both. That's every Sunday at noon Pacific time. Or you can come to Denver on November 15th and 16th, and you will get to meet us both. That's at the International Flat Earth Conference. You can get your tickets at Flat Earth 2018, or I'm sorry, at fe2018.com. And we'll play this for you one more time.
Are you ready? Because we're taking it to the next level. The world is waking up. Join us in Denver this November for the Flat Earth International Conference 2018. Tickets are now available at fe2018.com. FEIC USA Edition. Bigger, better, higher, and still as flat as ever.
I don't know how they knew I'd be higher, but they may have got that right. So be there or check it out online. It's going to be great to meet all the new people and some of you that we haven't seen in a year. So join us. It'll be great to see you again, Iru. Hopefully you have an easier time going through customs than last time.
Thank you, man.
Just
If not, I make you call.
Okay, yeah, give me a call. I'll talk to the cops. I'll get you free. So, yeah, and if you want to join the coolest group on the internet, you just need to head over to patreon.com/jeranism. That's to become a patron. And thank you to all my patrons. You guys are awesome. And thank you for everyone for your support. You can also support me at paypal.me/Jaron. And if you want to donate to Eru, he would love it. He needs it a lot. Money's not quite the same down there as it is up here. So a little bit from us helps him a lot. And he's got his trip coming up to Denver here in about a month. So you can donate to Eru at paypal.me/Nur, N-U-R, para, P-A-R-A, Todos, T-O-D-O-S. So that's paypal.me/Nur, para, Todos. And lastly, if you want to help me by not paying anything, you can go to my Amazon link. I get a percentage of all the sales there, and that link is j.mp/JaronAMZ, or just go to jeranism.com. You can click up in the upper right-hand corner and hit Amazon, and you just go there, and you don't pay anything different. You do your normal shopping, and then I get a percent. So I'm certainly not telling you to go shop at Amazon. If you don't do that, that's just for those who do shop Amazon. If you do and you use my link first, you can help me out a little bit with that, and I certainly do appreciate it. So, and I think that was all I had going for tonight. And again, Eru and I will be back later this week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, and that will be awesome. So other than that, be kind to everyone and don't lie. And remember to do your own research, because if you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. So till later this week, or till tomorrow night on Raw, which is 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific, and that is on Truth Frequency Radio. So join me over there. Till then, guys, it's been fun. This has been Jeranism. Till next time, peace.
Peace.